Okay, here we are, Parshat Mishpatim. The shir is back on, ready to get started. So we're going to start with this. We're going to start with on the first page is the second Gemara Shabbos Daf Pei Tes Aleph. And by the way, I always switch. I feel like not always, but I often switch from Sephardi to Ashkenazi. So if that happens in the middle of this year, is what it is. So it says Darash Rabbi Simai. Rabbi Simai says, "B'sha'ah she'ikdimu Yisrael na'aseh l'nishma." In the moment that Klal Yisrael said na'aseh before Nishma, na'aseh l'nishma. Ba'u shishim ribo shel malachei Hasharet. 600,000 malachei Hasharet came down. L'chol echad ve'echad miYisrael, to every single Jew. Kashru lo shnei ktarim. They gave him each one crown. Echad keneged na'aseh, v'echad keneged nishma. Means one for na'aseh, one for nishma. V'kevan shechatu Yisrael. Once Klal Yisrael did the egel, yardu me'ah ve'esrim ribo malachim, malachei Chabala. Now, so it's double. 100. It's 1.2 million. Malachei Chabala came down to the earth. And what happened? Upirkum. They took them off. Shneimar v'yitnatzu b'nei Yisrael yam mehar chorev. Bnei Israel took their crowns off by Har Chorev. Amar Bichama Bar Chanina, Bechorev ta'anu, Bechorev parku. Bechorev ta'anu k'damban. So right, meaning a Chorev they put on, and Chorev they took off. And a Chorev they put on, like we said. Chorev parku dichtiv v'yitnatzu b'nei Israel v'chule. Okay. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, V'kulan zacha Moshe v'netalan. Moshe took all of the crowns of Klal Yisrael. The Samichlei, Moshe yikach et ha'ohel. Because it says after that, Moshe yikach et ha'ohel. Moshe takes, that's the next pasuk right after, Moshe took the tent. Amar Shakish, Atida Kadosh Baruch Hu lachziran lanu. Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to give them back to us. Shneimar uftuyeh Hashem yeshuvun u'ba'u Tzion berina. The redeemed ones of Hashem will return. They'll come to Tzion with rina, with song. V'zimchat olam arosham. There will be eternal happiness on their heads. Simcha sheme'olam al rosham. The original happiness would be on their heads. This is the crown, exactly. Amar Rabbi Elazar, b'sha'ah she'ikdimu Yisrael na'aseh. So here's really the meat and potatoes of what we're looking for. Amar Rabbi Elazar, b'sha'ah she'ikdimu Yisrael na'aseh l'nishma. The moment that they said na'aseh before nishma, estabat kol ve'amra lahen. The bat kol came out and said, Mi gila lebanai razezeh. Who told my own sons this secret? Shemalachei Hasharet mishtamshim bo. Only the great angels. Now, Malachei Hasharet is not just any regular angels. It's the big boy angels. They're the ones that know this secret. Dichtiv baruchu Hashem malachav gibor koach oseh devaro. Lishmo v'kol devaro. So it says, bless Hashem, His own malachim, His angels, gibor koach, the ones that are strong, oseh devaro, that serve Him, lishmo v'kol devaro. They serve Him to listen to Him. So Bereisha said v'hadar lishmoa. So it's backwards. It's oseh and then lishmoa. It should be lishmoa, and then you have to listen, and then you do same thing as us. So it says the Gemara. Amar Bichama Bar Chanina. Right, Amar Bichama Bar Chanina. My dichtiv. Sorry, okay, no, that's perfect. There you go. Okay, that's good. That's all we need to see. Perfect. Okay, good. So meaning the Malachei Hasharet, we know that they are on this level. First they do, and then they listen. Just like Klal Yisrael, that first they do, and then they said we'll listen. Now, okay, good. I mean, do we have any specific questions we want to ask here? I don't think so. I think we're ready to move on to this Gemara Nedarim. It's the first Gemara that we printed, and it says like this. Umi Pneima. It's the first line. It's right in the middle. It says Umi Pneima. Umi Pneima en nitziyin Talmidei Chachamim latzet Talmidei Chachamim b'pneihen. Why is it that Talmidei Chachamim don't have Talmidei Chachamim children? So it doesn't always happen. Sometimes you have, big Gaon, and his son is, Shvach HaLeifes, as they say. So why is that the way that it is? So Amar Rav Yosef, Shelo Yomru Torah Yerushahi Lahem. People shouldn't say that the Torah is like basically a caste system. There's the Jews that have the Torah and the Jews that don't, and the ones that do have the Torah, it goes down to their kids and their kids and their kids. And the ones that don't, they always are meant to stay. No, it needs to be accessible to everybody. So you have a Talmid Chacham, he's great. His son, nothing special. So great. That's the first answer. Rav Sheshat, Braid Rav Idi Omer, Rav Sheshat, the son of Rav Idi, says no. They shouldn't feel too great over the congregation. Already you have these guys who it's hard to rein them in, You have? Oh, welcome, welcome, welcome. Glad you can make it. So, how are you? Good to see you. That looks cool. How are you? Okay, it's good to see you. What's going on, guys? Baruch Hashem. Okay, so we're a little bit. We just started. We're in the middle a little bit. So we have like this. I'm trying to figure out why is it that the Talmidei Chachamim, the Gemara in the Dark, I'm trying to figure out why do you have this big Talmid Chacham and his son is not necessarily a Talmid Chacham. It doesn't always happen that way. So vice versa. And vice versa also, right? So the Gemara. So the first two answers were similar. First one was you don't want people to think that like there's the groups, there's the families that have Torah and the families that don't have the Torah. The second way it's going to be. And that's what it's going to be. And then basically, why should I try if I'm not in the family? The second answer is, we don't want them already. Sometimes you have a Rav, and like the people in the congregation have a hard time with him, right? Imagine how much better, how much more he feels like, he's in charge of the group. If his father and his father and his father are all Talmidei Chachamim as well, and it's like, then he really could, give it to the Kehillah. So he said, no, you guys have to, it has to be he has to have come from humble origins, essentially. So then, Mark gives a new answer. Marzudra Amar mipnei shehen mitgaberin ala tzibur. Okay, sorry, similar question. What's the question? Oh, you recording? The Gemara is asking, no, it's good to ask. The Gemara is asking, why is it that you have a Talmid Chacham and his son not a Talmid Chacham? How is that possible? Oh. So, fine. So good. So he says, okay, what's the difference between this answer and the first answer? Meaning he's saying, no, the first one was saying that maybe this would happen. This answer seems to imply that, no, that's absolutely what would happen. Okay, and then there's the third answer. So he says, they don't make a bracha on Torah. Guy wakes up, he doesn't say, Baruch atah Hashem, and the bracha on the Torah. Yeah. Doesn't make a bracha. That's the problem, which is interesting. We're going to get to this, okay? So he says, Shem Baruch Torah Tchila. The Amar V'Yud Amar Rav, Rabbi Yudah said in the name of Rav, Mai Dichtiv, what does it say in this pasuk? So listen, this pasuk says this, Me'ayish hachacham ve'yaven etzot. Who is the wise man that could say this? Okay, so this is or who understands this. It's a pasuk in Yirmiyah, I believe it's in Perek Yud, and the Gemara, the pasuk over there says, Me'ayish hachacham ve'yaven etzot, v'asher diberuach Hashem elav v'yagidah. Al ma aveda haaretz. That's the question. Why did we lose the land? That's the question. The question is, why did we lose it? But the way the question's framed is not, why did we lose it? The question is, who in the world knows the answer to this riddle? There's something that's bothering us and nobody knows. Not a Navi, not a wise person, nobody knew the answer. And then Hashem says, Vayomer Hashem alozva metorati. That's the rest of the pasuk. Hashem says, because they abandoned my Torah. Seems to be not that hard of a riddle, right? If the question is, why did we go into Galut? And the answer is, because you didn't keep the Torah.
Well, they all were probably learning. They probably were learning.
Okay, so you're saying in a good spot. You're saying good.
Were.
But we have to get there. No, you're right. But we have to get there. Right. We have to get there. You're absolutely right, but we have to get to where that happened. So the question is, what do you mean, how did nobody know the answer if it's that obvious? Alozva metorati. So it says, no. Alozva metorati doesn't mean they didn't keep the Torah. Doesn't mean they didn't learn the Torah. It means they didn't make a bracha first on the Torah. That's what the Gemara is about to tell us. The Gemara says, Davar ze nish'al ha'chachamim v'lenevi'im v'lo pirshuhu. Nobody knew the answer. The Chachamim, the Nevi'im, nobody knew.
They didn't make a bracha on the Torah.
Wait, you have to wait. Ad shepirshu HaKadosh Baruch Hu be'atzmo. Until HaKadosh Baruch Hu answered it himself. Tichtiv vayomer Hashem al ozva metorati. Hashem said, they abandoned my Torah. So it says, Hainu lo sham'u b'koli, hainu lo halchuva. Amar Rav Yudah Amar Rav, she'em mevarchim b'Torah tchila. Right? So the pasuk says, vayomer Hashem al ozva metorati. They abandoned my Torah. Ve'lo sham'u b'koli ve'lo halchuva. They didn't listen to me. They didn't do the Torah. So, same thing. So it says, no. They didn't make a bracha first. Okay? So you ready for this? You're asking the right questions. There's two real good questions over here. The first one is, what do you mean they didn't make a bracha? Of course they made a bracha. Who doesn't make a bracha on the Torah? Shwekė has a beautiful song on like everybody makes a bracha on the Torah first. That's the first question that everybody's bothered by. The second question is, like, they were learning, they weren't learning. How is this a mystery? If this was so obvious that they weren't making a bracha, why didn't they know it? Like, how did the Gemara answer the original question? The original question was, how did nobody know? And the answer is, well, they did something, they did this. And it's like, well, then how come they didn't know it was that? Like, what's going on over here? So you're saying good. Let's look at, because of the way that you're approaching it, we're going to skip a little bit. We're going to go to...
Maybe they didn't make the bracha more excitement.
You're saying too many good things. We have to wait. I don't want you to give away the whole shear. Okay? No. You're saying so good that we could just wrap it up here. I want to get to there. Okay, I really do. No. It's perfect. So look, the Orle Yehuda it's the last page. It's like the last thing that I got printed, and I actually wasn't focusing on. He quotes the Ran first. The Ran quotes from Rabbeinu Yonah that of course they were learning Torah. Of course they were learning Torah. What was the problem? They happen to not have been making brachas on the Torah properly. Okay, which again we're going to need to explain that as well. But he says because we're making brachas on the Torah, what's the big deal? If the guy doesn't make a bracha over here and there, like what does it matter? So they said no. If you're not making a bracha on the Torah, the shows it's not chashuv to you. So you don't appreciate it properly. That's why you're not making a bracha. So that was the problem. Hashem said, yeah, you're learning the Torah, but it's not chashuv enough. That's why the destruction took place.
That was then.
Right.
Then.
That was then.
Imagine now.
How much more we have to work on it. So it's 100%.
Right.
And so the idea was the round saying, if he saw this from Rabbeinu Yonah, of course they were learning. That was the whole problem. The whole problem was we are learning. We're doing good. We're good guys. We're from. Because of that, no. You guys are learning, but because you're not making the bracha, so who cares? It shows that it's not real to you. It's not chashuv. So look at the Chassam Sofer. He says something. He says like this. He says, we're quoting, one second, make sure. Oh, it's Uchidushe, it's the second line, it's like in the middle of the line. It says, Uchidushe Chassam Sofer, Ben Adarim. Sham Pirish, the Iskam B'Torah, the fact that they were learning the Torah, Haya was, Kedei Ladas, is Dine HaTorah L'Kaim. Why did they learn Torah? They wanted to know how to keep the Torah. So a guy knows, he can't eat cheeseburger. Well, he has to know. Well, what if a cheeseburger got mixed in to 1,000 regular burgers? Now, how many of those burgers can he eat? Oh, that's a question. Or how many burgers do they need to be so that he can eat all the burgers? Oh, that's a good question. Okay, there you go. You gotta open up the Yordea. Gotta go to Basar B'chalav. Gotta go to Siman Kuf Yod, whatever. You gotta figure out, is it really a bittul? Is it not? Oh, these are good ideas. So,
how much cheese you can eat with the burger?
No. There's one burger. There's one cheeseburger. And they both got, you don't know which one's which. Now, could you eat one of them? I give you one. And I'm not going to tell you which one it is. Did you eat it? No, of course not. What if there's 100 burgers? And I said, here's one of them. I'm not going to tell you which one it is. Maybe it's a cheeseburger, maybe it's a regular burger. Did you eat it? Well, it depends. It's not so simple. Maybe. It depends, right? So they had to find out. They had to know what the halacha was, right? They also know, I have to wake up and... Sorry,
What's the butt of the roll or something?
There you go. It's the theme of bittul, exactly. And I don't want to get too distracted because it was mainly meant to be, but that's exactly what it is.
So we were trying to say not all of them didn't make a bracha, and some did make a bracha?
The point is, why wasn't it chashuv to them? It wasn't chashuv to them because they only thought of Torah as the way to understand how to keep the Torah. That was the problem. They said...
not for its own sake.
Right, exactly. They didn't say, how can we learn the Torah for the sake of learning the Torah? So here we go. I didn't print this out because it was actually difficult to find. There's a Lavush. The Lavush says like this. Okay, and again, you're giving away the whole shir. But the Lavush says like this. The Lavush says, what do you mean they didn't make the bracha on the Torah? He says a part of the bracha on the Torah is that you have to be b'simcha when you make it. It's not a din in any other bracha. He says, if I make a shahak on this coffee, I don't have to be like, oh, a coffee! Wow! No. But the Torah, you have to. And if you don't feel simcha when you're making a bracha on the Torah, then you aren't making the bracha.
That's when you're half asleep, though.
Right. Yeah. No, it's in the morning, you have to sleep. You know, some people just get up to say Shema and then go back to sleep. The guy wakes up like at 8:30, he wants to really wake up at 9, so he gets up, says Shema, and then he goes back to sleep. Exactly, right? Yeah. That's a big, Lo Barachel B'Torah Tchila. That means he doesn't feel it. It's just another bracha he's saying early in the morning. It's a part of his morning routine. There's a lot of people, unfortunately, like that. It's a part of the guy's morning routine. He says the bracha of B'Torah. The answer is no. The answer is, if you don't feel it, b'simcha, then you aren't making the bracha. So he says, of course they made the bracha. The point was that they were making the bracha, but it wasn't a simcha to them. They didn't feel any simcha. They're just another bracha that they could make. Says Lavush. That's the problem. That's the issue here. The issue is that you didn't feel like it's exciting. So we have sort of the starting off point. We have the destination. I want to build the road to get there, okay? Here we go. Let's go back to the original, back to the first page. You have Sefer Netzach of the Maral. It's the only one we haven't seen yet on the first page, and he says, we don't have to see the whole thing, but you could skip to, here. Actually, we'll read the whole thing. Hamalashu od yoter ma'ala min hakodem. The whatever is more important than whatever comes than something else. Kasher titbonem b'ma'alat Yisrael. Teda ki lo davar ze bilvad ma sheYisrael chelek Hashem yitbarach. You'll see from it that it's not stam that Klal Yisrael are part of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. K'mo sheme'id alehem Hashem shel Yisrael shechatam Hashem VeNishma. Just like the name Yisrael includes HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name in it. So it shows you that it's not stam that we have a HaKadosh Baruch Hu part of us. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a part of us. That's what we mean. Ki en Yisrael b'atzmam shum metziut v'shum havaya rak bo yitbarach. We don't exist outside of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We have nothing but HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We have no reason to keep going except for whatever HaKadosh Baruch Hu is. All right? And to really put this in perspective, we have a lot of guys that will be like, like the Jews, they're, comedians, they're famous comedians. HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't create us to be comedians. Oh, they're big bankers. We don't exist to be bankers. That's not our point. The banks will be fine without us. Comedy scene will be fine without us. What are we here for? To have a connection with the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's it. There's nothing else. There's a lot of, a different example would be Swiss people are famous for being very good at making watches.
That's Swiss cheese.
Swiss cheese also, sure. Yeah, there you go. So fine. So could you say that the point of Switzerland is to make watches? No, that's not the point, but that's a part of their identity. Our identity only includes HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's it. Nothing else.
Not to make money?
Not to make money, no. I know. It's tough, especially for some people who go on strike, it's very hard. So it says, Velo tomar af imhem chelek Hashem. You'll say, even though we're part of Hashem, mikol baruch mikol makom hem bria le'atzmam. Nevertheless, we're our own thing. Our point is to serve Hashem, but we have our own identity as well, right? The comedy scene needs us, and we also serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. No. Aval hem legamri, atomar kach. It says no. Aval hem legamri el Hashem yitbarach, ad ki batel metziut atzmam el Hashem yitbarach. We are batel to Hashem. Everything else doesn't matter. We're only connected to Hashem. But the zen nir'ah, be'umah hazot, she'al yichud shemo v'kdush shemo ba'olamo, u'gahem toratoh hiu mevatlim atzmam v'notrin atzmam lechol mineh hefsed. So Israel have been willing to lose every single thing that they could lose, except for a connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In the Middle Ages, they kicked us out of Spain, Germany, France, England. Actually, England was the first country. People don't know this. England was the first country to kick out Jews officially, to make an edict. They said all Jews have to leave. In 1240, they kicked out all their Jews. So
that doesn't make us look good, though.
Doesn't make us look good?
Yeah.
The King of England, no, what happened was the King of England owed an exorbitant amount of money to Jews. So he said it would be just easier to just kick them out. And all the people back then, whatever. The point is the political system back then supported such a move because all the big nobles also owed money to the Jews. Which you're going to be like, well, how did Jews happen to be the ones? Because they blocked them from every other job. So we couldn't do any other job except for lending money. So they had their whole thing. Whatever. The point being, yes, we left England, we left France, we left Germany, we left Spain. Sometimes Jews had no choice but to die for Kiddush Hashem, and they chose to die for Kiddush Hashem. That means all of these things show that we'd be willing to lose whatever it is, just not a connection with the Kodesh Baruch. Whatever it is, just not a connection. Like the famous story, obviously, with I don't remember who it is, but it's a Rav from the Warsaw Ghetto that it's actually disputed about whether or not he said this, but he was in the gas chambers, and he said that Kadosh Baruch Hu tried to take away everything from him, and he said at that point he'd lost his entire family, his wife, his kids, and he said Kadosh Baruch Hu tried to take everything away from him, but he said he won't take away my connection with Kadosh Baruch Hu. It's just the one thing Kadosh Baruch Hu can't take away from me. So that was the I think we've said that story a few times already. Fine. Point being, fine. So it says Uchvar he'erachnu. So in my other sefer Beragola, you see this. That Klal Yisrael said, Naser len nishma. So we've actually talked about this idea also in this year. But the point being, what does it mean if a guy says Naser v'nishma? So if I tell you, could you meet me for lunch tomorrow? So you'd be like, oh, it depends. I have to do this, and I have to do that, and I have to do this. Okay, could you meet me for lunch? I'll give you $1 million. Whatever else is going on, you'll drop it. Whatever else is going on, you'll figure it out. Yeah? So who's gonna take the kids? I don't know. The kids will get picked up. Who's gonna, whatever. Who's gonna do this, who's gonna do that. Whatever needs to get done, will get done. I'm gonna get the $1 million, right? That's the idea. So that's the idea here. Person, is when Klal Yisrael is told, do you want to take the Torah? Klal Yisrael says, whatever's in it, we'll take it. We're not interested in the story. Whatever is in it, we'll take it. They say, that's Naseh, and then Nishma. Nishma is, we'll hear it after, but whatever we have right now, that's what we want, so much so, that everything else will come afterwards. So now we're not interested in the details. Don't tell me the details. Details are for like, maybe, if, that's when like, it's maybe not such a good deal, Sometimes you have a deal, you have to take it, and then you figure out the details later.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
That amount of money.
Exactly.
Second thoughts.
Exactly. There's some things that are so good, you don't ask questions. That's the idea. Okay, so look here.
Israel knew what they were going to get.
No, so I think they Dafka didn't. I think that's kind of the point. The point is they had no idea. The point was
they didn't know what kind of like reward or what the benefit. Like it was just present. I don't know how Hashem presented it.
Yeah.
But it was.
No, exactly.
It was my Torah. They didn't know why they were there.
So they had to connect. Okay, so this is bringing us to the best point that I think we need to spell out. Where was this? Who was the one that said this? Oh, okay, good. It's the Al-Sheikh. The Al-Sheikh is the one that says this. He's just like this. It's the third page, and it's the first thing on the page. And Al-Sheikh says, everybody wants, the question that's being asked here is good, which is, what did Klal Yisrael have that made them say Naaseh VeNishma? That's the question. I think you guys are, maybe I'm paraphrasing your question, but like, what was it they were saying Naaseh about? Because they didn't know. They didn't know what was in the deal. So the idea is like this. Ready? He says, Od katavnu lemala. So Al-Sheikh says, we wrote earlier, Ki ma shehaya shelo ne'edar ish mishishim ribo me'asig nevu'at panim panim b'mamad Har Sinai. At Har Sinai, every single one of us, had the nevuah of Moshe Rabbeinu. So he says, how is it possible? There's a reason that only Moshe Rabbeinu got that nevuah. It's an extremely high level. It's not accessible to most people. Most people are not, when I say most people, I mean every single other person that's ever existed except for Moshe Rabbeinu. Nobody could, except for Bilam. But he got it for opposite reasons. But nobody could reach what Moshe got. The question is, how come now all of a sudden all of Klal Yisrael gets it? He says like this, easy. Ki en hu itbarach mastir kivodo mishum birya. Hashem never takes himself away from somebody. Ela she'achirut hadam hu hamakev be'ado. It's a person's own, achirut kind of here doesn't mean ugliness. It means it means obstacles. That's a perfect word. It's obstacles. Like a person's obstacles. Like it's kind of like you have a screen door and you have stuff on it. You can't see through. So that you wipe that away, you can see through that. There's a shachirut adam hu hamakev be'ado me'abit el Elokim.
It's like the example of Moshe was able to communicate with Hashem through like a clear window.
Yes.
And then Nevi'im had like a cloudy window.
Had a cloudy window. Exactly. That's not.
A very like rusty, dirty window that is like nothing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
It's our own.
That's the idea. The idea that they say in I mean, there's a lot of areas where this is found. Also, they say with a baby or a fetus is really the right word, right? A fetus. Fetus, like Gemara says, is able to see everything that happens on earth. So how's that possible? So we know the Nevi'im used to be able to see everything that happens on earth. We know that because in Shmuel Aleph Perek Yud, Shaul lost his donkey, and they said, how are we going to find the donkeys? They said a few donkeys of his father. How are we going to find his father's donkeys? So he said, go to Shmuel. Shmuel knows where the donkeys are. How did Shmuel know? He's an Navi. He knew what everything was going. He saw everything that was happening. Another place where you see this is in Pasuk in Melachim, Bet Perek Dalet, where there's actually a haftarah of Parshat Vayira, and Elisha Navi, the Isha Shunamit, comes to him and she says, she asks for his help, and Gehazi pushes her away. And then Isha says, no, leave her alone. There's something bothering her, and Hashem doesn't let me know what it is. I mean, Hashem's holding it back. Really, he was supposed to see what was going on. He was able to see things that people weren't able to see. So fine, there's a lot, and there's more examples of this. The point is, they could see things that they could just see things that other people can't see. And the fetus is in that status until it gets born. Once it gets born, already there's achirut, there's stuff blocking. The eyes really could see. It's the physical limitations that are blocking. So he says like this. He says, it's only our physical limitations again that are holding us back from seeing Kadosh Baruch Hu. You won't be able to see me. Kilomar, ha'ikuv mitzidcha shelo tuchal. You can't see me. Meaning it's not me that's blocking you. you from seeing me. It's you that's being blocked from seeing me. V'zin yir'ah b'firush b'adam harishon. So this with Adam harishon. See this clearly. Why? Kitem nichta ve'yazach bli shimreizu amat nachash. Before the nachash got to him, hayamabit veroeh umdaber umishtashea. Imaviv shebashamayim. He was able to talk and speak. Everything was with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with Asmaklayir HaMeira, with the clear glass, like you said. Ukshechata nechba bishmoa et hakol v'lo yachol lesov lo. He had to hide from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, Adam, where are you? And he had to run away because he couldn't physically handle that call from Shemaim, that voice from Shemaim. V'hinei Yisrael she'amdu al har Sinai paskazu amtan. When Klal Yisrael were there, they had nothing in between. There was no limitations anymore. Ve'al ken hisigu kulam nevuat panim bepanim ki paskazu amtan ve'en b'en mikuv. That's what happened. So the question that everybody wants to know is, what did Klal Yisrael say? What did Klal Yisrael understand about the Torah that made them say Naaseh VeNishma? They said, we experienced it. It was an experience. It wasn't just something that they'd seen.
It's clear.
It was clear, exactly. They physically had felt that they had a connection with the Kadosh Baruch Hu that Moshe Rabbeinu himself had. That Adam Rishon before the Chet had. They were on the level of Adam Rishon before the Chet. The Al-Sheikh continued, says it earlier and later, that they had to work on this. It wasn't stam. I mean, that's the whole part of the 3 days of preparations, all of that was because it was not possible unless they prepared themselves to feel the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in their life. And so Klal Yisrael said, Naaseh VeNishma, meaning, we want that. We're negotiable on all other details. We want to have that connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So with that, let me bring you now to the Sforno, and then we'll go on to close everything out, round everything out. Here we go. The Sforno is on the second page, the first printed thing, and it says Naaseh VeNishma. There's a ot zayin. You go down a little bit from the zayin. 3 Dibur HaMaskil. Those are the 3 bold words, and you say Naaseh VeNishma. Naaseh l'tachlit shenishma bekolo ka'avadim hamshamshin et harav shelo derech lekabel pras. Kinyan aseh devaro lishma bekol devaro. What's the point? We're going to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu not for the reward. We're not interested in the reward. That's the idea. We don't care about the reward. So what does it mean if a guy says, what does it mean if a guy says, I'm not interested in the reward? What does that mean? So by the way, Kedai to mention this, there's two girsas in this Mishnah. We actually have printed out this Mishnah once and gave a shiur on it as well. There's 2 girsas in the Mishnah. The first girsa is, Al tu kavadim shushin l'Torah v'amanat lekabel pras, el yu kavadim shushin l'Torah shelo amanat lekabel pras. So meaning, don't serve Hashem, don't be like a servant that serves HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the sake of receiving reward. Rather serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even not for the sake of receiving reward. But there's another girsa that says, serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the sake of not getting a reward. Which sounds backwards. I think is the Baal Shem Tov's girsa. Baal Shem Tov had this girsa, and they said, serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the sake of not having this reward. What do you mean? No, you don't serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the sake of not getting a reward. You serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the reward is secondary. Why would you serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu and hope and pray not to get rewarded? It's backwards. It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense. Right. So the answer is that the reward, so the Baal Shem Tov said the reward is a distraction from the real thing. The real thing is in that exact moment, the connection a person feels with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's
the goal is Hashem.
That's the goal, exactly. To have that connection.
The goal is Hashem.
And then what comes next, the reward afterwards, that's not the point. You're distracted if you're thinking about it. So serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu not for that. For not that. You don't want that. Because if you have that, that's a distraction. Now, in the end, you obviously do want that. In the end, you do want to have that connection because the reward is the connection. But in the moment, you're saying to yourself, I'm not interested. I'm not interested in what's going on. So, fine. So that means what Klal Yisrael said is, we're interested in the connection right now that we have. We're not interested in whatever else is going on. That's it. And we're negotiable on every other detail. So look here. So based on Levi on the parsha, so it's the bottom of this page.
Just going back there, it says, they knew that if we do the Naaseh part, we'll get to hear from Hashem directly.
Interesting. I didn't even, no, you're right. You're saying a deeper understanding in the Sforno than what I had originally. Meaning, We want to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu so that
we get to hear.
we get to hear from him. Wow, Chazak, yeah, absolutely. The connections are there. I did not.
Good one.
Yeah. Coming straight from the Al-Sheikh, you have to say that. You have to say that. That's what he means. Wow, Geschmack. Wow. Okay, good. See, there we go. We have Chidushim here. It was Kedai to come just for that Chidush. Meaning that, wow. Okay, fine. I don't know if we could top that, but we're going to try. Here we go. Ready? The Bet HaLevi on the parasha. He says, Vehine, behold, Im hayu omrim, if Klal Yisrael would have said, Nishma v'naseh, we'll listen and then we'll do. It would have implied that we'll accept whatever mitzvah you have. So you say, don't work on Shabbat. We'll work on Shabbat. How do we know what's Shabbat? How do we know what's considered work? So we'll learn. We'll figure it out.
We'll listen and we'll do.
Exactly. So it says, no, that's not. That's what they would do. They would listen so they could know what to do. Meaning the nishma is just a continuation of the naseh. It's a way to get to naseh. How do you get to naseh? You gotta listen. The naseh have tachlit. The point is the naseh. There's just one kabbalah, one except. We accepted one thing. We give the mitzvahs. How do we keep the mitzvot? The mitzvahs? You gotta listen. Exactly. You gotta go to your Mishnah Brurus here to know what it says there. Exactly. We'll do it. I mean, of course, if I say naseh, how can I do it without knowing what it is? Like, a lot of people, I'm sure, have had that experience at work where the guy says, get the job done. You don't even know what he's talking about. You don't know what the job is. So, fine. Okay, that's a different problem.
Do it. Just tell me what you need me to do.
Exactly. Right? So that's obvious. If we say naseh, that means we'll accept whatever you tell us, we'll do it. But it says, ve'achar kach amru, gam ken, the gam shelo yitzarchu lilmod, one second, let's get this, ve'achar kach amru, nishma. I want to line over. After that they said nishma. V'nimtza, dehabi nishma tachlit, mitzad atzmo gam ken. Nishma is its own purpose. We'll learn for its own right, for its own sake. The gam shelo yitzarchu lilmod mishum asiyah, I'm going to learn something that'll never become practical ever. Gam ken yilmedu mitzad atzma. They'll also learn that. V'nimtza yidei ha'ktava na'aseh shtei kabbalot. Shtei tachlitim. We'll do two things, which are two different things. All mitzvot ve'ol Torah. V'zehu she'amru. This is what they said in the Gemara. V'sha'ah shekdimu v'habu shtei kabbalot ol mitzvot ve'ol Torah yaradu shishim ribo malachi asharet. So now 600,000 malachim came down. V'kashu kol echad miYisrael shtei ketarim. Echad neged naaseh v'echad keneged nishma. De'edei haktama zachu l'shtei ketarim. So he also says, I think, one second, make sure I don't give this away. Yeah. So he also says that how do we start the Gemara? The Gemara said that Hashem says to Klal Yisrael, who was it that told Klal Yisrael this secret that only my Malachi Asharet know it? So, by the way, the VeNishma says, what do you mean? Who? You know who. What are you asking who? Because Baruch knows who. The VeNishma says, no. It was a shevach of Klal Yisrael. I mean, it's a rhetorical question. It was not a real question. The question was, wow, Klal Yisrael are so amazing. They know something that only the Malachim know. What do the Malachim know? So like this, why does the Malach do when I serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu?
There's no reward for him.
No reward. Doesn't get any reward. Why doesn't he get any reward? He has no choice. Actually, the Malbim says confusingly that there is a choice. But we're going to ignore that Malbim for a second. We're going to go with I'm pretty sure he just... What? No, exactly. So the Malbim wasn't, okay, whatever. It's a complicated discussion. It's not for the point of today's discussion. You're absolutely correct. That is one of the biggest, ironies in, our friends that people have no choice, but angels do. And we have it, obviously, we know that people have very much choice and that angels do not. And whatever the Malbim said was a different discussion for a different time. Not relevant. I think actually it might be even in this week's parsha this month, if I remember correctly. But whatever. Point is, we don't want to get distracted with that. But we do want to get distracted. Why do they serve Hashem? They don't get reward, and they don't have a choice. Right. Why don't they have a choice? So it's for the reason we talked about. which is that there's a reason we talk about in times of Mashiach. What will it be? It'll be so clear to everybody that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the creator of the world, and his dominion is over the whole world, that a person won't even have a choice to think, should I do a mitzvah or not? It won't even be a possibility. That's what it means in the times of Mashiach. That's why when the Gemara says that Klal Yisrael said, Naseh VeNishma, then they did the Egel, they lost their crowns. Then Mashiach's going to come, it's going to come back to us. Why? Because we're going to come back to the original status we were, which is we're serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the sake of the service. That's the times of Mashiach specifically. That we're going to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the sake of the service. Because
what's the difference between that and serving Hashem to know what to do?
So serving Hashem to know what to do. Okay, so far we haven't seen. So far we haven't connected those ideas yet. We're going to get to it in a second. It's a good question. We'll get there. Which is that. But let's stick on this for one more second. So that means there's serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the sake of serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's Naseh and then VeNishma. We'll do it. And we'll hear about everything else later, but we'll do it.
What is it that we will do? Exactly.
The 613 mitzvot. We're going to keep all 613 mitzvot. Now, in the Bet HaLevi's redefinition is exactly what you're saying, which is he says, it's not enough to keep the mitzvot. I need the Torah itself. And so how does that connect to Naseh and VeNishma? So I'll tell you like this. Very, very, very simple. If you view, how does a person feel that connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu the strongest? When he learns Torah. When a person does a mitzvah, absolutely feels a connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In fact, the Sefer HaYikarim, which was written by Rabbi Yosef Albo, who's a Rishon living in Spain in the 1400s, he writes that if HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't give us a Torah, we would have figured it out ourselves. And how we would have figured it out? Simple, he says. If you do chesed, you feel good. Why do you feel good when you do chesed? He says, because your neshama feels the connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's that great feeling. So when do you feel bad? You do an Averah. So he says, we'll just test everything. We'll figure out what feels good and what feels bad, and we'll serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu that way. Because we'll understand that neshama, that happens to be, it's an oversimplification. Why? Because how is this an oversimplification? Because you take these guys how would you say this? Like you take a guy protesting maybe the most corrupt, whatever it is in your mind, it's the most corrupt thing to protest.
Free.
Exactly. And you tell him, how do you feel? I feel amazing. Why do you feel amazing? Because the neshama feels, no, of course not. Why does he feel amazing? Because he's corrupted. But the thing is, the Sefer HaKarim is correct, because the reason why he's corrupted is because the neshama got corrupted by his goal. It's the neshama, that achirut, exactly, the achirut that we talked about messed with the original connection. We talked about these ideas. But what is correct, what is true, what is real is that the neshama, when it does mitzvah, feels a connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But when it learns Torah, it feels a much stronger connection. That's why Talmud Torah connected kulam. It means the connection HaKadosh Baruch Hu has with the person when he learns Torah is connected all 613 mitzvot. That's what it means. And so it comes out, a person says, it's not enough to just keep all 613. It's not enough to learn the Torah to keep all 613. I have to learn the Torah for the sake of the connection.
Also, you could say, once I learn how to do all 613, my learning is done.
My learning is done, exactly.
It's almost like, study this textbook for this test.
That's exactly what it's like.
You don't go back to you're not learning last semester stuff.
100%. Not only that, I probably, I took calculus 2, 4 weeks ago I had a final calculus 2. If you told me to evaluate an integral, I probably couldn't. I've forgotten every single thing.
You did what you needed to do.
Exactly, and that was it. I'm done. And I got a good grade in that class. That's how it goes, right? Why? Because the idea is that, if the point of the Torah is just to get there, so it's like a textbook. You go through the textbook, you figure out what you need to do, and then you close and you're done. But if the Torah itself is the connection, that means I feel the connection stronger than anything else. It's not enough for me to keep all 613 and be done. I have to have the Torah itself. That's the idea. That's the Naseh VeNishma. I'm not enough, and that's how the Bet HaLevi, he's redefining, but he's staying with the original interpretation. Because the original interpretation was, I'm negotiable on the details. I need whatever I have right now. I need the connection, the aspataria me'ira, the achirut, getting taken away, and I'm only having a Kodesh Baruch Hu. That's what I need. Everything else, I'm negotiable on. And he says, but you know how you do the ultimate of that? Is to learn the Torah. For the sake of learning the Torah. If you're only learning the Torah for the sake of, how do I get to the next mitzvah? No. You misunderstood that. You don't have that connection anymore. And so that's why in the times of Mashiach, that's why it's something that Malachim only have, because only the Malachim understand this idea of having a connection with the Kodesh Baruch Hu so strong that they don't really care about anything else. It's not VeNishma. And then, for us, when do we get that crown back? Times of Mashiach. We'll have the simcha of the original simcha, which is to have those two crowns, and to understand the point of serving Kodesh Baruch Hu is to, at that moment, be serving Kodesh Baruch Hu. That's the idea of Naseh and VeNishma. That's why you have to understand this whole entire year, everything we said. That's why you have to be besimcha. Because if you're not besimcha when you're doing it, that means you're not doing it. You're not doing the job. You're not serving, exactly. If you're
serving a different cause.
Exactly. You're trying to make yourself feel good. You're trying to, how many guys, a guy walks out of a math class and he feels great. Why does he feel great? Because if intellectual pursuit, he feels like he's brilliant. But, that's not what we're talking about. Okay, with this,
It's also like, studying the parts of the Torah that don't apply to you.
Right. That's why Davka.
It's very hard, by the way.
Yeah. And that's why.
Because you're
Korbanos.
Korbanot, things like, no offense to the Kohanim and Leviim, but like, doesn't apply,
Yeah.
Maaser, all those things, like, I'm not in Eretz Yisrael.
Or how many guys own an ox and it gored somebody? Like, how's that? And then that's the only thing we learned for years and years and years. Like, what's going on?
Right.
That's the point. That's the point.
That's
the point is, I don't really want this to ever necessarily, I don't need it to be practical. Practical or not, it's not interesting to me. The point is,
I'm doing Yevamos now.
There you go, exactly. So very, very, very not practical. It means the whole, exactly. Fine. Hazaku Baruch, everybody. Thank you so much.